Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. I tell you what, we've got a very rowdy live chat tonight because it's a very topical point that we're going to be starting off the show. Mason Greenwood has held extensive talks with Manchester United and wants to make a return as soon as possible, but Manchester United have told him to stay away for now. We'll delve into that and what it means. I think there's a very big indicator of what's going to happen here, and I think it's going to come down to money, because I think that's what football's all about, and we shouldn't be surprised about that. I think it's going to come down to money, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about who, there is some stuff out of the club, I can tell you, for certain players in the team, what their thoughts are. We'll talk about that. But also, Frenkie de Jong's back on the equation as well. We'll talk about where that's coming from, and it involves a Man City player, as well as I want to talk about the Hall of Fame thing I didn't talk about this afternoon, and a few other things as well. So there's lots to get into, a little bit about the new ownership as well. But we have got a bit of a poll going on around the Greenwood thing. If you want to get involved in that, we'll certainly refer to that because it is about opinion. This is exactly what it's all about. And funnily enough, on every tour show, the Dublin to the Manchester, the London, we did speak about Mason Greenwood. And every time it came up, people went, ooh, and I said, shut up. I know you're paid to come tonight, but at the end of the day, it's not all about jokes and one-liners and analogies and slagging off Maguire, which did get a lot of laughs. We're actually a community that doesn't duck these sort of things. When it came out that January, that Sunday morning on January, when we got the story about Mason Greenwood and that audio went out, we did a video on it. So look, it's we as I said at the show last night, we can all talk about the ownership, but this Greenwood thing ain't going away. It's gonna stay, so we need to talk about it. Before we get into all of that, though, as you can see, I'm pointing at Manscaped. We're sponsored by Manscaped on the show tonight. It's a Thursday night show, and I'm happy to say we're sponsored by Manscaped, a regular sponsor of the United Stand, as you should know by now. You should know what this is called. It's called the Lawnmower 4.0. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code United Stand. Adjustable lengths, a light for a more precise shave. It's waterproof. It's got wireless charging. Just dock it into its dock, electromagnetic, and it does it. Away you go. Fantastic bit of kit. You can also get the Weed Whacker, which goes up the nose and becomes part of the performance package, where you get a travel bag, deodorant, boxer shorts, everything. The travel bag's fantastic because I've been travelling on tour lately and I've been using that. I didn't take this, but I did take that because that grows more frequently than that down there. But fantastic products. Manscaped, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. You will be overwhelmed by the difference it makes when you get it. So check it out. Thank you very much to Manscaped. I want to just remove that actually, because you might see a new addition to our to my background as well. Here he is. Is there? Look, you can see who it is. See who's here? Oh, I can't get my thumb right. There he is. I still can't do it. I hate doing this one. There he is. There he is. Ten Hag. Ten Hag's joined us. He's behind us there, which is great to see. Lots to get involved in. Anyway, let's start off with this Mason Greenwood story. I'm going to read you the story first, and then we'll just go on about it. We have got a poll going at the moment, and I'll refer to that in a minute. Some people want me to do it now, but we're not going to do it now. This is the story. It's coming in from the Daily Mail. Manchester United are understood to be... sorry, it starts before that. Starts way before that. Manchester United has told Mason Greenwood to stay away and not return to training at Manchester United until next season at the earliest, with the club's internal investigation into his unlikely to be completed before the summer. So Mason Greenwood's been told to stay away from training until at least the summer, when the internal investigation, will hopefully have been carried out. However, Mason Greenwood is understood to have held extensive talks with Manchester United officials in recent weeks, in which he's emphasised his desire to return as soon as possible and stressed his commitment to remaining at Old Trafford. At the end of the day, can I just say that's not a shock? That's not because he's got a Man United tattoo on his arm. That's because he is somebody whose career was nearly finished, and off to Turkey or off to Stoke or stay at Manchester United. Of course he wants to bloody stay at Manchester United. He wants to try and make up. He'd only just turned, I think, 20 when this happened, and he'll be 22 by the time he basically plays for United again. So he's lost 2 years, hasn't he? He's continued to receive his £70,000 a week wages since being suspended, and the remaining value of his contract is understood to be £8 million, which Manchester United would have to potentially pay off if they chose to dismiss him at the end of the season. Manchester United are understood to be split on the issue of Mason Greenwood, with staff in the football department arguing he should be given a second chance, but commercial executives very concerned amidst concerns over the potential damage to their reputation. But Manchester United insist they will not be rushed into making a decision in relation to Mason Greenwood and are continuing to conduct due diligence into circumstances surrounding his arrest and his off-field conduct. Look, as I say, I'm sure some people will just avoid this because they're cowards. That's not what we do in this community. You know, we do try and steer our way through these conversations. There's a lot of detail there. It's out in the public arena. This is not a criminal case anymore. That was dropped. It didn't go to court. He didn't get found not guilty. The case got dropped. There's a big difference between that. The case was dropped. And I think we all know why it was dropped, because the person who who had allegedly was the victim in the case is now pregnant and probably going to marry Mason Greenwood. So look, we all know the story of what's happened there. We're talking about the football story here. I said at the time it will go into the court of public opinion. I'll repeat to you what I said on stage last night in London. I'm 60% that the club will give him a chance and take him back. I think it's moving up all the time. I think if you'd have asked me a month ago, I'd have said 50-50. I'm now 60%. If you ask me in another month, it might be 70% chance of him coming back. So when I look at the poll, should Mason Greenwood play for United again, 60% of you are saying yes, and 40% of you are saying no, which is pretty much what I think the chances of him playing for Man United are. And I base that on a few things. The longer this goes, the less dramatic it becomes. Like, if he'd played for Man United the week after the case got dropped, there would have been uproar. If he plays for Man United next September, well, that's still 5 months away. It's natural. When your dog gets run over, you're distraught the next day, unless you didn't like your dog. But, you know, you normally are distraught. And then 6 months later, you'll still be sad, but you won't be as sad as you were the day after. It's the human psyche. It's why when somebody does something wrong, they might go off Twitter for a couple of weeks, because when they come back in 2 weeks' time, people won't be as angry as they were. They might still be really angry, but they won't be as angry. So I think that time will make it more likely that he comes back. The second thing I would say is that, there are people in the club that want him back. There are people in the club who want him to play for Manchester United again. I don't know, and I wouldn't name any names because that would be... you could potentially get sued for that, but look, I'm not going to mention Ten Hag or specific Man United players because that would be wrong, and I don't 100% know what the case is with that. I'm your longest member, says it's your boy, Cal. Thanks, mate. And get your comments in tonight because Catherine says, I wish I could have stayed till full time last night, but had to catch a train. Great show, though. Thanks, United Stand and everyone involved, says Catherine. No worries, Catherine. There were people queuing up for pictures, Catherine, so you could have got a picture, but you've got to get your train. Home. It's commercial suicide, says Danny. If you're just tuning in, Mason Greenwood has held extensive talks with Manchester United, who have said they won't be rushed into a decision and he can't train with the team until the summer at the earliest. Where's this going to go? I think there's a 60% chance that he will play for the club again, and 62% of you are now saying you want him to play for the club again. Can I just say respect, everybody? Respect, everybody. If you are saying you want him to play, don't be arrogant about it and a knobhead, because the people who don't want him to play have very good reasons, and as you do if you want him to play, but respect each other. It's not about falling out and getting into arguments. I think that's so immature. And it's a bad lesson for life. You can disagree with people on very big topics. You don't need to fall out about it. So I think there's a 60% chance of him playing again. One, as I said, because the time. I think the longer this goes on, the more comfortable people will be with him coming back. Point two, there's people in the club that want him to play because he's a good footballer. You know, I can't lie. I used to call him a generational talent. I was so excited by this lad. So excited. What a talent. I know Ricky didn't rate him, but I did. I really did rate him as a footballer. I rate him. But I'll tell you for free, there are people in the first team who don't want him to play. There are, and I absolutely cannot give you the names of those. You can probably guess them yourselves. There's one or two definitely that didn't get on with Greenwood, and I can't imagine that they're going to be comfortable now, but they probably won't have much of a say if it happens anyway. And then the third thing, and I think this is the saddest reason of all, I'd be more comfortable with different reasons for him coming back, but I think the saddest reason of all will be money. We'll have to pay him 8 million to leave. He's being paid £70,000 a week at the moment because he's not been found guilty of anything. So you've got to pay him his wage. Whether United want to or not, I agree they have to pay his wage. He's not actually legally, lawfully done anything wrong. So they've got to pay him his wage. His contract's really long. If they boot him out the club in the summer, they'll be paying him £8 million, and there'll be somebody who's half decent who will take him for free. So United would have to live with the fact that they've paid him 70 grand a week for the last 2 years when he's not played, 18 months. Then they'll have to give him £8 million. Then they'll have to watch him go and score goals for other people. Tell me I'm wrong when I say that Manchester United will keep Mason Greenwood because of money. Or they'll at least factor it in. A change of ownership might change things. They have got. Look, I've said this before. I don't envy the club on this. I really don't. The Premier League just changed the rules called purchasing a club will affect it. Qatar buying Man United, says Fabian. We'll talk about that in a bit. Welcome to the Members Club. James, thank you very much. Welcome. You're a legend. And I don't think he should play again. It's a bad look for the club. Sponsor of the club wouldn't like it, and I'm sure the women's team wouldn't like it either, says Ryan. Look, the other side of the coin, because I don't want it to sound like I'm totally pro Greenwood coming, because I haven't said that. The other side of the coin is that we've all heard the recording. Can I just say as well, we shouldn't have heard the recording. Some people will say, well, we should do because we know we know what happened. But if you got arrested tomorrow, would you expect all the evidence of your case to be put out for the whole world to see? That shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. And you think of certain other United players that have been in trouble. And you think about certain other players that are on bail at the moment and still playing for their club. Like there's an Arsenal player apparently that's on bail for serious offences. We haven't heard the recordings of that. We don't know what the evidence is in that. We don't even know who the player is in that. And anybody who starts speculating who it is, you can do that if you want to, but there's no proof that it is. My point behind that is it doesn't matter. That evidence has not been put out there because that's not what's meant to happen in this country. The law states that everyone's got the right to a fair trial. We did all hear the recordings. They never should have fucking come out. Like, whoever put that out was immature and silly. That should not have happened. That should have gone to the police, not the public. So we have all heard that, and that does create a problem for brands and sponsors because they've heard that, and it's different for Manchester United in a way. But if you're a sponsor and you are sponsoring Manchester United and they've got a player where everybody's heard that recording, they might get uncomfortable about it. And certain groups might get uncomfortable about it. So look, I'm not going to dwell on this for too long because we're a football channel, but there are two sides. There are two sides to, well, there's probably three sides. Some people might not give a shit either way. Some people might not want him to play for the club again, and some people will want him to play for the club again. And I respect all of those opinions because it's an opinion, and that's what we're all about. But at this moment in time, as I've said, I'm 60% sure he'll play for Man United again and 40% not. I think it's swaying slightly to more he will. And the reasons for that are, the main one I think is that I just... And maybe it's because of our current ownership being so focused on money and the Premier League being focused on money. But this is a moral debate, isn't it? It's about how comfortable you are keeping somebody at the club who's potentially done some bad things, or has done bad things, or hasn't done bad things, potentially. And how that impacts your squad, your sponsors, your name as a football club. You've got a moral decision to make there. But then you've also got, football's all about money, and to get rid of him would cost £8 million, and he'll go somewhere for free and start scoring goals, and everyone will say you should have kept him. It's a horrible decision for Manchester United to make. I'm not normally sympathetic to the way that Manchester United Football Club's been run, but I am sympathetic to that because I think it's an absolute dilemma. Ben Foster was in Manchester last Thursday night on stage, and we were talking about this, and he said, I don't care. I don't care whether I've signed for Wrexham, whatever. I wouldn't play him for Man United again. They get rid of him. And I respected Ben Foster for that because actually most footballers in the media would go, I'm not saying anything about that. And he said, no, I'd get rid of him. Everyone's going to have an opinion, and I do respect it, but I just think that the money will persuade Manchester United. But then you could flip it the other way and say, well, $8 million to get rid of him, but how much are you going to lose on sponsors who turn your back on you? So it's all about that. What I would say is there are definitely a few players in the first team that are not comfortable with him as an individual. Like there was issues before, but you know, everybody does deserve a second chance. I've always said that. But should that second, I suppose the big thing is, just because somebody deserves a second chance, do they deserve a second chance at Manchester United, or should that second chance be elsewhere? There's levels of second chance, isn't there? All I would say personally is, Hale says we should all keep our noses out. The victim would want this. I'm sure she doesn't want this to ruin their family's future. Good luck to them, says Hale. You know the victim is actually his girlfriend and pregnant. I don't know whether you know the story about this. It's a very, I don't want to get into all of that, but like, it's all in it's public knowledge. Like the victim, he's actually potentially going to marry, and they're just about to have a kid. So I didn't know whether you knew that. 700 billion debt and a potentially world-class striker. The Glazers, if they stay, will see it as a Christmas present, says Tom. Yeah, potentially. And not condoning what he did. I have a mate in the pen right now because of just stupid mistakes. In a time like this, how do you rehabilitate, says Zeus? Well, look, before we move on, I just think that I can respect everybody's point on this. I don't care whether you would... I don't care if you say I would be uncomfortable watching Manchester United again if he played for us, and I don't care whether you said I want him to play tomorrow or against Newcastle. Doesn't matter to me, because it's definitely a divisive topic. I respect this fan base because actually people are opening their eyes and not burying their head in the sand. It's a ridiculously difficult situation. It is a public opinion situation. Last year it wasn't, because it was going through the courts. It was criminal. Now it's not. Everybody has to face up to it, and everybody has to have an opinion. And I respect people who have an opinion and not those who go, oh, I'm not going to say anything about it. You've got to have an opinion about this. If he's playing up front for Man United next season and he scores, are you celebrating it, or are you feeling a little bit sick? Or are you not bothered? Like, they're the things you've got to think. It's a personal thing. We can all sit there, and I believe in rehabilitation. I know you said I believe in Raheem Sterling. I mean, he plays for Chelsea. I'm not really that bothered, but I believe in I nearly did it again. I believe in rehabilitation. I really do, and I believe in second chances, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's Manchester United. Like, you know, there's other things that have gone on with Mason Greenwood around timekeeping, etc. Maybe the club, like they did with Ravel Morrison, just say, look, you can have your second chance, but go and have it somewhere else. You've got no divine right for it to be at Manchester United. That's still rehabilitation. That's still a second chance. There's levels to this game, as I say. I think it's a horrible decision for the club to have to take. I don't actually think it's a very nice situation for Mason Greenwood and his partner. And unfortunately, it's been played out in the public. And when it's in the court of public opinion, you get this sort of thing. I get both sides. What do I personally think? I don't want to sit on the fence. I said it when it ended a couple of months ago. For me, it's all about time. I think we've got to. I just think all I can honestly say is if he scored a goal for Man United right now, I'd be very uncomfortable with it, and that's the truth. That is the truth. Chris says great show last night with Ricky. Thank you very much. But look, it's not my decision to make, and it's not your decision to make. I'm going to close the poll. 60% of you said you would like him to play for Man United again. 40% say you wouldn't. And we've had loads of votes on that. So thank you very much. Zeus says, I'm not condoning what I did. Oh, no, I've done that one from him. Welcome to Members Club, Adam. Team is in a good place right now. We shouldn't disrupt that for one player. We should also take into account how the players on the women's team would react. They're part of his organisation too, says Oz. Do people really believe he's sorry and will change? He's getting away with it. Qatar are looking for a positive image and won't stand for this nonsense, as Average Joe. 2 years of not playing has to be detrimental. Working out in the gym or alone on a pitch can't keep you at a Premier League level, says Joel. I mean, these are all good points. They're all good points. They're certainly getting me thinking. The thing I think that makes it worse is that he broke bail, contacted the victim, not even going to look into timelines regarding the pregnancy, says Uma Mellon. No agendas. Let's not risk upsetting the dressing room or the chemistry. We've done fine without him. Team is more important than agendas, says Damo. I think, you know what? I think there's some really interesting conversations there. A great show last night, says Chris. Can't believe Ricky spent 5 minutes bigging up McTominay and then didn't even put him in his best 11. Says Chris. Yeah, that was good. That was good. And Slow Sports News, who I met last night, says, if you've never heard the clip, would you still feel the same about his actions? It's a real cliche about they're not guilty and actually going to marry the person, says Slow Sports. You know what? I've played the game. I've played the game of life, and many of you have as well. And the thing I love about this community is, within reason, and we'll always be careful, but we won't duck the big conversations. I don't think there's a right or wrong in this. There's only an opinion that you have. If you believe he should play for United again, you're probably right based on the opinion you have. If you think he never should play for United again, you're probably right based on the opinion you've got. Couple of things I just want to touch on before we move on. If Ten Hag wants him to play for Man United again, he probably should play for Man United again. And it's on Ten Hag's shoulders. You know, it's on that guy's shoulders. Not mine and not yours. If he makes that decision, it's on him. In this country, there's a lot of high-level journalists who already come out and said he should never play again. So, look, if he plays for Man United again, don't expect everyone to go, oh, it's fine. There will be a lot of backlash. And United know that. Also, I think if there's players in the first team squad who are not comfortable with it, they should be listened to as well. The difficult thing is, who's going to make the final decision? Will it be Ten Hag? Will the players have a say? Will they listen to the women's team, like people have said? Will it be made a decision by the owners? It's such a hard thing. I'm actually just going to say this. I'm very glad for the first time in probably history on the United stand that I wouldn't have any say in this. I think we all want to be director of football. We all want to be picking the team. We all want to be doing the signings. We all want to be selling players. But on this, I'm pretty glad that I don't have to have any say in it at all, because I don't really know what the answer is. And I do agree that the answer can't be made now. I still think there's got to be a lot of thinking done on this. Stuart says, on sponsorship, why can't a Qatari company that's also not owned by Paris sponsor our shirts for the reasonable price of 1 billion? There we go, Stuart. Thank you very much for that. Rehabilitating how and by who? He hasn't been charged criminally, says Mark Wright. Well, Mark, I'm not about to get into stuff like that. You know, I think you're being a little bit pedantic there. We've all heard the recordings and we all know why the case got dropped and it didn't go to court, because it couldn't go to court because somebody, well, let's be honest, he's back with the victim and they're pregnant. So, you know, I've done that for a job. I know exactly what's gone on there, and you know, so does most people. But look, you're right. There is no criminal charges, and that's why he's being paid £70,000 a week. There's many ways you can look at this, and we're not going to go down that road because ultimately it will be a decision for Manchester United. And Tom, I'm not going to get into that either because he's going about that. Look, you either don't understand the law or you're being pedantic. The reality is we all know what really went on in relation to why the case didn't go to court, and we're not really here to talk about that. We're talking about a footballer. And what I will say as well is, whatever you think about Mason Greenwood, and I suppose this is sort of the case for, in a way, even though I'm not for it, the case for it is there's been complete cretins who've played for Manchester United, and some would say are defined as legends. Did we hear about what they did? Did it impact on them when they were scoring goals? Wakey, a lot of footballers are knobheads. And they're knobheads because they're created knobheads. They're 14 years of age and everyone is basically kissing their arse. Their agents, the football clubs, their family, their friends. You're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. I've been told loads of stories about what some young players are like and what they do in nightclubs and how they treat people. And, you know, it's a different girl every night. And, you know, maybe it's speculation, maybe it's true. You know, getting pissed up and not giving a shit, and it's all about, you know, look who I am, look who I am. But we create these people because football has become such big business. Clubs are picking clubs up at 8, kids up at 8 and 6 and signing them up. They never live in the real world. There's no boundaries. And when there's no boundaries, people cross the line. And that, you know, what I'm trying to say is, let's not pretend, even if you think that, let's not pretend that Mason Greenwood's the worst footballer that's ever lived. There'll be loads and loads who've done worse. And it doesn't get out there. Because there are a lot of knobheads who are footballers. There's some fantastic lads who are footballers. You know, and United have got a great set of lads. But some of them in football aren't. And I will say this. I don't like the way one footballer represents everything that's bad about football. There's a lot of them. and they're almost victims of their surroundings because they live in a world where they get given everything, and that's a very dangerous thing when you think there aren't any boundaries, because as soon as you cross that line, everyone goes, oh, and leaves you and hangs you out to dry. Oh, yeah. And you're like there as a player going, hold on a minute, last week you were telling me I can do this, that and that, you were getting me this, that and that, I've done this, and now you're all leaving me alone. You know, why weren't you responsible to me in the first place and guiding me? I would say to any young player that surround yourself with people who actually are willing to tell you what's right and wrong and tell you no sometimes, because actually when you're a young player up and coming, you know, I look at what happened with Gaza and all that lot, you know, these people just need responsible people around them. Just because you're a superstar, I would still desperately say keep people around you that keep you grounded and tell you when you're wrong. They're the best people in the future, because all these people who are kissing your arse, they'll drop you like a stone when you do something wrong. You know, you've got to put people around you who will actually tell you what's right and wrong, I think. It's not wrong for the Glazers to ask for $6 billion with the biggest football gaming team. By the way, the problem is our recruitment process, not the Glazers. Akram is having his own chat. Do a show in Stockholm, says Fel. And as you say, Mark, these players have no boundaries, so someone has to be made an example of. I feel sorry for them, Average Joe. As I said there, I feel sorry for them because, look, what some of these footballers do is, you know, arrogant, and it makes them very hard to like. But I think they're a victim of their environments, and there's so much money in football, and people are so scared of losing a player or a client, or, you know, family and friends want to just, you know, cling on to their fame. You know, is there ever an example of the person who was given everything from a young age who turned into be a really nice person? I mean, there might be exceptions, but, you know. What did you make about Carlton Palmer's comments on Talk Sport about Luke Shaw? Absolutely ridiculous. Well, George, you know what? I know I do the Talk Sport show, but they do seem to get some plonkers on there sometimes, don't they? I mean, he basically said that Luke Shaw was a bad player. I mean, look, Carlton Palmer playing for England was like me playing for England. I don't know how it ever happened. He was bang average as a footballer. And it sounds like his opinions are a lot worse. I mean, apparently Luke Shaw's a bad player. Fucking hell. Average Joe, we've done yours. Part of me feels United have a responsibility with how young we pick up these talents. Very hard question. SK, look, I'm glad that Man United are looking into this stuff, because I think that we had Solskjaer in interviews being asked about Mason Greenwood, saying there was no problem, and there was. I'm not saying Solskjaer should have said there was publicly, but it sounds like they didn't do anything about it privately. The club needs to be, you know, better. Brian Duffy, thank you for the super chat. Give him a second chance after rehab, counselling and therapy, says Muzzy. Thank you very much. And congratulations on the live show, legend. Hoping to catch one in the US. Ed Sheeran fans are buzzing about the Etihad news. No United Stand FC today. So I was going to do it today. I just got a little bit busy, but there we go. Right, let's move on a little bit. Very long section there, but look, I'm not worried about that. You know, some good points either way, and as I say, just respect each other. I know it's a difficult topic, but my opinion is, and I will always say this too, and I'll always be honest. Why would we avoid it? Why would we not think about it? We're all talking about the bidding process and who's going to be the next owner, but Mason Greenwood's a Man United player. He ain't going to prison. What are we going to do? He's either going to play for the club again, or we're going to move him on. One of those two things are going to happen. Some people want him to stay, some people want him to go. A section of you are going to be not happy, and that's coming to a Man United team near you very soon. Why would you not discuss it? Appreciate your United updates as Unruly. Thank you very much. Somebody mentioned before about Ricky last night. I'm going to talk about De Jong, and there's a couple of other things I want to talk about as well. But someone mentioned, didn't they, earlier about Ricky being on stage last night talking about Scott McTominay. I was in the queue last night. I was doing photos after the show. I mean, fair play. I'd never queue up for a photo with me, and I'm me. But people were queuing up for a photo, and as they were doing the photos, they were asking me stuff. And somebody said to me, are you going to apologise on your next show about Scott McTominay? And I said, what? He said, are you going to apologise on the next... I said, I heard you, but I mean, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, he's redeemed himself and you should apologise on the United stand. And I thought, hold on a minute. I had to move him along because I didn't want to be stood there all night. There was quite a few people queuing up for a photo. And I thought, hold on a minute. This is a Scott McTominay redemption arc where I've got to apologise to him because he scored a couple of goals for Scotland. I don't remember him running around in a Man United shirt. In fact, the last time I saw him in a Man United shirt, he was playing hide and seek behind Andreas Pereira. So, no, I'm not going to apologise for Scott McTominay. I will apologise for him if he starts playing in our first team well, consistently. I'd be happy to do it. I did it with Matic. I said Matic was a bag of cement and he was finished. And then suddenly he started playing really, really well. And I said, look, love it. All I want is the best for Man United. It's never personal. It's just about, it's like when you go around your mum's and she serves up a roast dinner and you say you've burnt these Yorkshire puddings. Like, I still, love my mother, but you've burnt your Yorkshire puddings. I'm sorry. In fact, I'm not sorry. You've burnt them. Doesn't mean I don't like you. It's not personal, but you've not performed in the dinner area. I'd probably end up with that dinner over my head, but that's the risk you take when you put some criticism out there. I don't know why people think it's personal. So there is no redemption arc or apology coming in from me for Scott McTominay, I'm afraid. It's down to him to do it in a Man United shirt consistently, which I would question whether he could. To be honest, no one is listening to Ollie. He said he doesn't train the team he can manage, didn't manage. So Zeus, thank you very much, Zeus. There you go. And also, welcome to the Members Club CP. And whatever happened to the MG interview he was meant to do on Sky Sports with Eric Ten Hag and Richard Arnold during the international break? The MG interview? I don't know what that is, Dominic. Don't know what that is. But you've not performed in the dinner area, says Bastards. Yeah, so I can't apologise to Scott McTominay when there's no redemption arc, I'm afraid. But there you go. I mean, look, I don't want to liken Scott McTominay to Darth Vader, but his redemption arc is a little bit like that. He's not done it in a Man United shirt, and he's done it in a Scotland shirt. And I'm not saying that Darth Vader was Scottish. I don't know what accent he had, but I just think Darth Vader is one of the worst redemption arcs in the history of the world. Like, I don't know whether you're a Star Wars fan, but basically Darth Vader was a Jedi who basically turned to the evil side, and then at the end of the films, spoiler alert, he killed the Emperor to save his son Luke Skywalker. And then at the end of the film, they're all stood there as Force ghosts, and they're all smiling and waving. And it's a nice ending to Return of the Jedi, because Darth Vader has gone through a redemption arc. Apart from the fact that I don't think killing your evil boss is justifiable, repentance. I don't think we should be waving to Darth Vader at the end saying, we've forgiven you because you killed your evil boss. Does nobody forget what he did in the bloody Revenge of the Sith, where he walked into the Jedi Temple and slaughtered all those young Jedis, kids? Oh, don't worry about mass killing a load of kids, you ruthless shit. As long as you kill your boss in 20 years' time, well, all is forgiven. No, it's not. It's a crap redemption arc. Rubbish. Anyway, I've swept off there. Ronaldo was arrested for a worse crime. Oh, here we go, Brad. Look, when you've got to compare things to other people, you've lost the argument. Because you know what? We're dealing with something completely different. Completely different. It's a different time. It's a different thing. And you know what? The big problem is, if you really want me to go back there, did we have the audio of Cristiano Ronaldo, whatever you're talking about, put out there for everybody to hear in the pictures? No, we didn't. And everybody knows that that's the big problem with this, and that's the big problem with Man United, and that's the big problem with sponsors, is the pictures and the audio. If they didn't exist, like somebody said before, it would be a very different conversation. McTominay is a centre-attacking midfield played out of position. It's gross mismanagement from previous managers. You're absolutely wrong about McTominay. William. What am I wrong about Scott McTominay? Not good enough to play for Man United. I don't care whether he's a centre-attacking midfielder or a goalkeeper. He ain't getting in the United starting lineup. He ain't better than Bruno. He ain't better than Eriksen. He ain't better than Sancho, so he's not playing centre-attacking midfielder. I said this on Twitter today, and I'll say it to you now. The next progression for Manchester United is based on what the next progression of football has been over the last 5 years. I watched PSG play Bayern Munich in a Champions League final a few years ago, and I looked at the bench and my mouth dropped. Because I looked at their bench and I was like, that's like a Premier League first 11. This is the new wave for football. Your bench now has to be full of superstars who are as good as your first team players. Look at Man City. We've got people like Riyad Mahrez on the bench. Kevin De Bruyne is sometimes on the bench. Look at our bench. We've got Scott McTominay on there, Harry Maguire. We need... The next step for United is to look at that bench and see people like, sometimes Casemiro or De Jong. That's the next level, to have the squad that I'm not saying Casemiro would be on the bench, but maybe you're playing bloody Southampton at home and Casemiro's on the bench because you're playing De Jong and Sabitzer. Like, that's the next level for us. And with all due respect to Scott McTominay, if we're going to that next level, he ain't the sort of level player you need on the bench. People say, oh, he's a good squad player. Look at Man City's squad. Calvin Phillips hardly plays. He's way better than Scott McTominay. Way better. And that's the next level for United, especially if we get the wealthy owner. If we keep the Glazers, keep McTominay. But if we're going to get a wealthy owner in, you've got to start having the bench that PSG had and Man City have got. Who do you think will line up in midfield on Sunday? Well, funnily enough, I do think McTominay will play, Kevin, to be honest, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, although Sabitzer was in training today. I'm having a lovely day, and you come along making me question everything I thought I knew about Darth Vader and if he truly redeemed himself, says I. Look, I love Star Wars, but the redemption arc for Darth Vader was okay in the original Star Wars trilogy. But as soon as they did the prequels, Darth Vader, Anakin, was an absolute butcher. I mean, I'm wearing Martinez butcher. He butchered young Jedis. Hundreds of them. There's even that scene where the little kid who's about 6 comes out the chair and goes, Master Anakin, what's going on? And he has evil eyes. And they had to cut it from there because you know what's going to happen. Oh, but throw your boss down a hole. You can come back as a Force ghost. Oh, it's all forgiven. Here I am having a... Sorry, mate. Who do you think I've done that one? And hi, Mark. Did anyone you meet at the live show complain that you'd not read out their super chats? Just kidding, says Glenny Boy. And how do I break up with my girlfriend without being rude, says Damon. I would leave a note. Or... Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, you know, Anthony. Thank you very much. Welcome to Members Club. I think breaking up with somebody is very difficult. I think just don't use the whole it's me, not you. I think that's such a cop-out. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. You know, if they've got bad breath, they've got bad breath. If they fart when they're asleep, they fart when they're asleep. You know, it's constructive criticism. You know, they can go and work with that. Don't lie to them. Give it them truthfully. Because if you're breaking up with them, you don't want to message you. The last thing you want is, let's stay friends. Because they'll be messaging you all the time. Friends means we might get back together. If you're breaking up with them, be 100% sure it is what you want. And if you're breaking up with them and you don't want to be with them anymore, that means you don't really want them WhatsApping you anymore. You don't want them there. So tell them they've got bad breath. I mean, don't tell them they've got bad breath if they haven't. But what I'm saying is, why are you breaking up with them? There will be a reason. You know there is. There'll be some reason. Maybe you found somebody better. You know, maybe it is farting in the bed or whatever, but just tell them what it is. The plural is Jedi, not Jedi. See, I've upset Star Wars people now. You know what? Be very careful. Be very careful. I'm a big fan of Star Wars, but be very careful upsetting Star Wars people, because in The Force Awakens, somebody dies by getting stabbed through the chest with a lightsaber, right? And then I made a comment about, if he got stabbed in the chest, where was all the blood? And somebody said, actually, he shouldn't have even died, because a lightsaber is so hot, it would cauterize everything inside, and actually, it would just all go hard, so he probably should live. I was like, oh my God, there's people out there analysing mythical weapons. So yeah, let's not go there. Hi Mark, have you been watching Mando? Oh, I watched Boba Fett. Anyway, this is going somewhere I didn't want it to go, Jack. Where can we go quickly to move away? Oh yes, I saw on, you know, I mean, there's a few things I want to talk about. I've still got plenty of time. Someone wants him to break her up by text. That's a cowardly thing to do. You can't physically interact with somebody, you know, effectively, you know, enter them physically, obviously, lawfully and willingly, because it's a relationship, and then break up with them electronically. Like, you can't have an intimate relationship with somebody where it's physical and then break up with them electronically. That's cowardly. Come on. You can't do that. You can't do that. I've never done that. It is awkward breaking up with somebody. You know, obviously I've always been the heartbreaker. Heartbreak kid, they used to call me. Shawn Michaels, heartbreak kid. No, I have been broken up with before. I was about 6. She used me. I didn't realise it, but my mate was off sick and she was going out with him. And then she sort of went out with me. We just held hands. We were both 6. And yeah, that's the only time. I said, never again. Never again. I was sat at home watching He-Man and I went, never again. And I never did. But no, you've got to do it face to face. Come on. You can't be a coward. Here's me thinking you're a geezer. Love you only fools. Love you Oasis. Wear some good clubber, Mark. You let me down with Star Wars, says Tom. And is this whole half of Hall of Fame total shenanigans? I'm going to talk about that, GJ. And hi, Mark. This morning you were talking about Joel Glazer going to Fenway Park in Boston. Ironically, it's almost as Old Trafford, but it's brilliantly renovated by none other than the Liverpool owners, as United have. Well, why does that not surprise me? Right, I want to move on. There was a tweet put out by the United Stand earlier about whether Harry Maguire should start at the weekend. This will move us on from Star Wars safely. Varane's fit, and this guy, Martinez, will be fit. So absolutely no way should Harry Maguire be starting at the weekend. And it's simply because Rafael Varane and Martinez are way better than Harry Maguire or any other centre-back that plays for Manchester United. Ownership, stadium, transfers, sacking, bet, focus. Cheers to you and your family, says Sheriff. Yeah, so look, it's got to be Martinez and Varane who play at the weekend. I mean, look, Martinez and Varane to me, if you look, whether it's Martinez and Varane, they're the number one. If it's Martinez and Maguire or it's Varane and Lindelof, for me, Martinez and Varane at centre back. If you could picture it as a holiday, you're sat in a 5-star restaurant on the French Riviera, looking out over a beautiful harbour, drinking a beautiful glass of wine with beautiful people. There's loads of boats there, the weather's fantastic, and the music is classical. That's Martinez and Varane for me. Picture that scene. Beautiful sunshine, beautiful harbour, boats, wealth, class. That's Martinez and Varane, right? Maguire and Lindelof, if you ever lived in England and driven through undesirable areas when it's hot, you get people in their front garden drinking Carling, listening to Three Lions with their top off. There's levels to this game. And Martinez and Varane are... And there's nothing elitist about that. It's not about class structure. It's about football class. Martinez and Varane, I don't care who you are. You can be Twan Sebi if you'd actually fulfilled your talent. You can be Luke Shaw filling in at left-sided centre-back. Nobody is at the level that Martinez and Varane are at. There is no conversation to be had about whether Maguire should play ahead of Varane or Lindelof ahead of Martinez. They are the elite pairing. Simple as that. Adam says, Mason is whatever. Let's others make this tough decision. Bring on Kane and Eric Ten Hag super season next season. Love the channel. Can you call Spider a prat, says Adam Bailey. There you go. Slow Sports News says, as you said, Mark, if you had a headbutting competition with Maguire, he would miss every time. I actually got asked that. There were some cracking questions. I can't wait to do some shows again, actually, because the questions we got from people were brilliant. Somebody asked the question, would you rather fight a great white shark in a swimming pool or go toe-to-toe with Harry Maguire in a headbutting competition? And I decided to go with a headbutting competition with Harry Maguire because he'd miss. But, as I said, a couple of questions about the great white shark. What's it doing in a bloody swimming pool? And, it's basically just what's it doing in a swimming pool. I don't think you'd be very happy. Can you talk to me about new agreement amongst clubs in regards to ownership, says Wakas? There's something that's been voted for by Premier League clubs whereby, you can be suspended if there's issues with any directors or owners. But look, I don't think it's going to matter in relation to Manchester United. This afternoon I was a little bit concerned about it, but at the end of the day, we've just had a World Cup in Qatar. Qatar owned PSG. Al Thani is an individual. And they own. There's a lot of money from the Middle East that is invested in financial institutions and supermarkets and car companies. I don't think these people are going to... Basically, the sort of people that this whole thing has been voted for are people that have, identifiable issues with human rights, or people trafficking, or it's criminal behaviour. And I don't think anybody who's buying Man United, whether it's from Qatar or Sajim or anyone like that, is going to have blatantly open and redeemable criminal offences or malpractice against them. So I don't think it will make any difference really. Maguire and Lindelof is a crisp sandwich. Have their place and just not elite. I tell you what, I love a crisp sandwich, SK. I really, really do. I tell you what, Jip, I don't know what you're talking about, but I love this. I might nick this. Time heals all wounds, but time can leave the nastiest scars. Wow. Capello says that Joel Linton and Almiron are out for the United game. Varane and Martinez is like listening to heavy metal, and Magaluf is like listening to Ed Sheeran, says Kevin. You know what, Kevin? The problem is some people will think that Ed Sheeran's better, I'm afraid. There's a bit of a story coming out here from Simon Stone. I'm just going to read it while we're live. It came out about an hour ago. Manchester United owe $1 billion through a combination of gross debt, bank borrowings and outstanding transfer fees with associated payments, according to new figures. The club released their second quarter results to the 31st of December on Thursday. And unlike previous years, there was no investor calls afterwards. This could lead to the sale of the Premier League club. So while the principal debt remains at $650 million, $650 million, a change in the exchange rate okay. In addition to that, $206 million has been taken from a rolling credit facility, with another $220 million owed in outstanding transfer fees. The club did have $31 million in cash or equivalent, but the overall sum remains just sort of $1 billion. I mean, that's good news in relation to a sale. I already said that this afternoon. This afternoon's video was very good. I'd analysed the figures myself. We're in huge debt. Some people are out there thinking, oh, they might stay. We're in huge debt, like huge debt, and we've got to build a stadium. I don't see how the Glazers stay, and I think if they did decide to stay, it would be the biggest mistake they've ever made. So I don't see it. I really, really don't. I really do want to talk about this. Obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday. Well done. The next players to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, people have got to vote for. I don't know who votes for them. I don't know who votes for this, but you've got people like John Terry, Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, Andy Cole, Michael Carrick. There's a few other people in there. Look, it's a bit, for me, it's like everything, isn't it? Who decides, and are they switched on? Because I've got two words: Dennis Irwin. For me, Dennis Irwin is arguably the best fullback in Premier League history. He's not even on that list. I just think that recency bias and, recency visibility in the media seems to count for a lot these days. I've seen the Premier League from day one. No, old man, call me what you like, but the advantage of that experience is I've seen the Premier League from day one. I know how good people like Mark Hughes, Paul Ince, Eric Cantona, Steve Bruce, Dennis Irwin, Peter Schmeichel, that first team for Man United, even the people like Lee Sharp and Kanchelskis, these were really good players that have almost been confined to history because it's so long ago, but it was still the Premier League. I think it's disgusting. I think, unfortunately, there's just no integrity in anything anymore. I have this joke with Ben Foster all the time. When the players have their Players Player of the Year, does everyone just tick De Bruyne because they want to get on the golf course? Because the amount of times De Bruyne has won Player of the Year and he didn't deserve it is a joke. I think the only place to really get decent football opinion these days is from the fans, because we're very opinionated and we consume it. I think that Hall of Fame list is a bit of a joke. I really do. I can't believe that Dennis Irwin's not on there, and yet Gary Neville and Ashley Cole are. I think even Gary Neville would tell you Dennis Irwin was better than him. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. So look, it's nothing to ruin your evening, but I just think it's disgusting. Like, Dennis Irwin played left back for Man United, but was also probably the best right back we've ever had. He was a brilliant player. In fact, in my best Man United Premier League 11, I did it on stage last night, I put Dennis Irwin at right back and put Everett at left back because I'd prefer Everett and Irwin than I'd prefer Irwin and Neville. I mean, it was close, but I just think and the thing that saddens me is that the modern young fan doesn't get to hear about Dennis Irwin. They get to hear that people like Gary Neville and Ashley Cole are the elite fullbacks of the Premier League era, but they're not. They're not. Dennis Irwin was bloody brilliant. It does wind me up because if you're of a certain age and you've watched the whole Premier League, you know the big players in the Premier League, and you know that there is a bit of hype around recent players. I mean, look, someone like Mason Mount's pretty decent, but they were 10 a penny at one point in the Premier League. You had a lot of players like that. Lee Clark at Newcastle was very good. Rob Lee, who also played for Newcastle, was very good. You got people like, Matt Letizia. There was loads of players that were really good. But we just get locked into this recency bias. Slow Sports News says 970 million from gross debt and bank borrowing. It's a lot of money. Sumi says, I've seen the game. Whole process, I agree, very biased. To this day, my 3 all-time United players from 2000 to now are Vidic, Keane and Rooney. Well, I love Vidic. 100% with you on Irwin. Absolutely outstanding fullback. An absolute legend, says Tom. Look, I'm not going to list off people because I think that, comes across as, you just... Yeah. But when I saw it today, I was just like, that's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. To not put Dennis Irwin in there, but put Ashley Cole and Gary Neville in there, is a disservice to football. It is. Anybody, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. If you watched it, you know. He was such a bloody good right back. And look, I don't ever hear from Dennis Irwin. You don't see him on the telly that much. I think he was quiet in his career. I don't remember him doing many interviews. I mean, it doesn't mean he's quiet in real life. He might be really loud, but he had a very quiet career in relation to, interviews and stuff like that. But I'm not saying it for effect. There's no advantage for me saying it. He was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And it's the Premier League. It's the Premier League. He played in the Champions League final. He was at Man United for years in the Premier League. The purchase of Qatar is imminent, says the Moose. Well, I think that we're going to get. I think we're going to get sold. I do. Yeah. I mean, Ashley Cole was a very good fullback, but I just think Dennis Irwin was on a different level. I really do. It just pisses me off. It's like rewriting history, isn't it? It's like when you've got a really good film and they remake it. I'm trying to think of one. But, yeah, people forget the original. Or a song, Bernabeu renovation is going to be incredible and not going to take anywhere near 6 years to complete. P.S. Irwin, gigs down the left was unreal, says Smoggy. Thank you very much. Yeah, but look, I couldn't give a shit about the Hall of Fame. It's very, sort of NFL anyway. Actually, to be honest, the only Hall of Fame, when I think of Hall of Fame, I think about the WWE. I think about Hulk Hogan. So I think the Premier League Hall of Fame is a bit of a bloody farce anyway. But if you're gonna do it, at least give it some credibility. And I think they've messed up big time there. If it's a Premier League Hall of Fame, at least know the bloody Premier League. The Premier League didn't start in the year 2000, lads and ladies. It started in 1992. This is why we should put in players in chronological order so we don't lose sight of these players, says SK. Yeah, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And at least in wrestling, they do go Hall of Famers and they'll go back to people from the bloody 70s and 80s. Right, De Jong, Mark. Haven't spoken about De Jong. Shall I put it back to the show tomorrow morning? Simon says, the fact that Company was inducted first is a joke. Fucking hell. It is. I didn't even realise that, mate. If Vincent Company's already in the Premier League Hall of Fame before Vidic and Ferdinand and Irwin and John Terry, to be fair, absolute fucking joke. Absolute joke. Vincent Company ahead of those 3 centre-backs. They're having a laugh. They're having a bloody laugh. I mean, Vincent Company was decent, but he wasn't better than Terry or Rio or Vidic. Never. That's a joke. If that's... I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. WWE Hall of Fame does have Donald Trump in it. Does it really, Smoggy? Okay. What's the point of the Hall of Fame? Is it a metaphor or does it actually physically exist? Why continue the Americanisation of football, says Muzzy. The current board knows that Qataris will revamp the whole structure, says the Moose. And this is there we go. Look, I'm going to mention De Jong because maybe we'll mention it on the morning show in more depth. But effectively, I suppose the real question about De Jong is, do you want to go down that road again? That's what a lot of people are saying. Apparently, if Gundogan goes to Barcelona, Man United are thinking about going back in for De Jong. I want us to sign De Jong. I want us to sign De Jong because Eric Ten Hag wants De Jong. So I want Manchester United to sign De Jong. Do I want to spend all summer again chasing De Jong? No, I don't. I think either it's a deal we can do or it's a deal we can't do. It's deal or no deal. Do you know they're bringing deal or no deal back? And it's not Noel Edmonds. It's Stephen Mulhern. I would have done that. I'd be much better at that. Stephen Mulhern will be all smiley going, I'll be there going, you twat. You're a bloody prat. He's bloody missed it. He's picked the wrong box. That would have been good. No, on Frankie de Jong, just do it or don't do it. But don't spend all summer. I'd love us to get him because I think a player that Ten Hag's obsessed with, imagine what that could be. But I don't want to spend all summer chasing our tails again. I know this is off topic, but I recently watched the new Luther movie on Netflix and liked it. Do you recommend for me to watch the TV series? We have access to it here. Blake, I've never played that game. I've never watched Luther and I've never watched the series. So I can't answer that. The live chat might be able to. Emma says, I love the show, Mark. I found out this week that I'm teaching at Duncan Edwards Primary School and I'm feeling really proud. Emma, that's absolutely fantastic. I get where you're coming from on that. Look, Duncan Edwards to me and my granddad was massive, and yeah, I mean I've been to his grave in Dudley, and that was quite a, you know, how do you describe what how I mean it was quite a, it was something I always wanted to do, but then when you do it, it really does hit you, you know. It's like, you know, every February when it comes round, isn't it? But no, that's amazing. That's amazing. Luther's good, apparently. There we go. Series is better than the film, says Adam. So there you go. There you go. Right, everybody. I could talk and talk, as you know. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Really enjoyed the chat. It's been fantastic show tonight. Look, I know the Greenwood stuff. Some people are shit. They shit themselves. They get I've seen people talking about this. One, they don't know what they're on about, haven't got a bloody clue. And two, they're like, oh, how do I sit on the fence? How do I sit on the fence? We don't do that here. As I say, people are going to have different opinions, but you know, we've got to face up to it. Something's going to happen. Something will happen this summer. We'll see what happens. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day. If you know, you know. And I'll speak to you tomorrow. We're back tomorrow. We've got a press conference with Ten Hag tomorrow, haven't we? Get it back. Get it back. Put it on. Let's go. Speak to you all in a bit.